What's going on, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at all these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us these copies of these books. These books are all due to come out March 1st or 2nd, depending on where you get your comics. So, as I always like to do is remind everybody that down below is where I put the timestamps for the different books in case you want to jump around. All of that information is in the description of the video. So we've done an overview of The Wrath of Odin already, if you want to check that out on the channel. Apparently it was really delayed in the direct market, but some people overseas have got it. It's really weird what's happening with distribution. I've seen some people have the crossing line already. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about this Daredevil, the Man Without Fear first. So even though the kids and I and Melanie will probably be doing a review of this particular series of Mighty Marvel Masterworks, here they are. Here comes Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. You have the classic cover here. This is the direct market cover, and then the Michael Cho standard edition cover. Here's what the spines look like, each one of them different, and then, of course, the back of the book. So, Volume 1, and this collects issues 1 through 11, which, when I was doing the advance look, or I'm sorry, the upcoming collected editions for the month of March, I thought that was interesting because I thought it was solicited as the first 10 issues. So the book has 248 pages, and it retails for $15.99. Here's the big thing. Wallace Wood, sorry. The talent that went into this particular book. So you have Wallace Wood, Bill Everett, Joe Orlando, Bob Powell, and then the inks of Bill Everett, Vince Colletta, and Wally Wood. Of course, Stan Lee and Wallace Wood are the writers. Here is your table of contents, Daredevil number 1 all the way through 11, the title of each of the issues. Like I said, we'll be doing more of a breakdown when we do the review of this, because I'm curious to see what my kiddos think of this era, especially the artwork, because it's different than the artwork that was going on at the time between, well, either Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko, just about. But this is a lot different. We are loving the Mighty Marvel Masterworks. I'm loving it because it brings me closer to my kids. Like, having them read it, it almost feels like a book report time, right? I'm like, okay, what did you all think of this? What did you think of the art? And it surprises me the things that they've enjoyed. Like, they enjoyed Doctor Strange so much more than I thought they were going to. That really, I don't know, melts my heart. So I can't wait to see what they think about this particular character. Especially those earlier issues, because, you know, for the people that love old Hornhead here, I think, you know, they get better and better as time moves on from the early stages of Daredevil. So, another Excalibur trade paperback from the Reign of X, and this one does wrap up the series. Well, this particular series, here's the previous 3 trades. This one retails for $15.99. All right, and collects Excalibur 22 through 26. So this does wrap up the collaboration between Tini Howard and Marcus To. And in here, it's a huge war in Otherworld. So that's basically what happens here. This has a lot to do with the the whole myth of Excalibur and King Arthur. Of course, whenever we're talking about Excalibur, this time I'm talking about the actual sword and the legend and lore that comes with it. So it really borrows heavily, I think, more from those particular issues of Alan Moore's run on Captain Britain than the Alan Davis and Chris Claremont era. That's the type of stories that are told through here. And I'll be honest, and I think I have been when doing overviews of this particular era, I wasn't the biggest fan at all towards the start of Excalibur. I didn't know what Tini Howard was trying to do. And honestly, even through the X of Swords or 10 of Swords, it was hit and miss. It was a roller coaster, and I found her particular parts just kind of dull and almost too cheesy for me. And I get what she was trying to do, but I think it was when it came to this particular volume, I'm like, oh, okay. Man, that took me a while. I mean, we're talking 24 issues before I was like, this is what's happening, okay. And there are fans of this, right? I'm not saying that it's a horrible book. It's just, it wasn't for me. I didn't think the things that they were doing with the characters were that exciting. But this, it made sense. And I'll be honest, by the end of it, I was like, oh, I'm going to miss this. Now, there is another comic series coming out, I believe, this month, or perhaps next now, and that's Knights of X, which is the immediate follow-up to this, because this does end on a cliffhanger. I mean, it's a huge all-out war, and it ends on a huge cliffhanger, so I'm glad they're continuing the series. The thing I'm not glad about is Marco's Toe. I am going to miss his artwork. I've been a huge fan of his art for a long time, and I was so happy to see him in a series like this. Now, of course, to a lot of people, and I get it, he has this new Marvel art style that a lot of artists have, like R.B. Silva or Pepe Larraz. To me, it's always been like a Stuart Eminem type of style, almost like a mix of like anime colors and just dynamic poses. But I dig it. It works, and it works for this book. So I'm going to miss his art. Now, the book is 136 pages. And let's look in the back here for some extras. So this is where you're going to find the covers. Now, there hasn't been a solicitation of an Excalibur Volume 2, but I'm sure they'll probably do one. Tell Phil Noto variant right there. Ryan Gonzalez, very anime-driven. It's a place that got a splash page over Peach Momoko's Jubilee. But hey, that's cool. And X-Men. We'll get there in a second. Darkhawk, Airborne. You had me at Darkhawk, but then you throw Kyle Higgins, a guy that is really familiar with superheroes behind a mask. He's written Power Rangers, he's done Ultraman, he's doing his own series Radiant Black. How can this miss? Alright, so let's talk about this book. This collects the Darkhawk one-shot. It's called Darkhawk Heart of the Hawk. That's actually how you kick it off. And the reason I'm excited to talk about that is because part of the story is right here, is the Cry of the City. These names, Danny Fingeroth, Mike Manley, the two people that, put the original title out there. Hopefully one day we'll get a Darkhawk omnibus, but that makes me happy to see them reunited, even though it's just a few pages. But we are back to Chris Powell, and he is back to being Darkhawk in this flashback. And then we get some present-day stories where he is after the Infinity Wars. Because remember, while Chris was gone for a while, they started bringing him back, like in the Runaways comics, and then issues of The Losers. And eventually he made it into the DNA run of War of the Kings, and then Infinity Wars. So he's kind of been all over the place. Now that's the one-shot, and the one-shot focuses on Chris. And where Chris's whereabouts are, well, you got to keep reading. Because this is a new era of Darkhawk. So we're talking about a brand new character. Now, going into it, me, this creature of habit, I'm like, why do we need a new character, man? We already got Chris Powell. All you need to do is bring him back and kick the comic. Get it started. Well, sadly, that's not what's happening. In the same way that we had Sam Alexander replace Richard Rider, and, legacy characters are all over the place in the big two, whether it's Marvel or DC, doesn't matter. Legacy characters are introduced all the time. This particular one, immediately I'm like, I don't want to get to know this kid. And I'm always like that. It's like Doctor Who, right? Whenever a new Doctor comes on, a new actor takes the role of Doctor Who, you're like, ugh, I really don't want to like this guy because I liked David Tennant, or I liked Matt Smith, or whomever your doctor was. And that's the way it is with superheroes with me. I'm like, I don't want to like this character. It took me a long time to appreciate Laura. Anyway, where the hell was I? Oh, yes. So we do meet a brand new character. This kid's name is Connor Young. Now, he's a basketball star. Yeah, he's cool. He's got, he's a little popular. However, there's something heartbreaking that happens to him. And I do have to talk about this because I like that. Immediately, I felt bad for his dad. So he's been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I thought, man, that's rough. I have a couple of friends in my life that got diagnosed at a real young age, and they've been on medication. I know how rough it's been for them. So to read this from the perspective of a father having to deal with it with his son, and then poor, Derek, who's having to, Connor, his friend's name is Derek. Connor having to deal with it. It's just rough. And then, of course, he gets the power of Darkhawk. So this kid with MS now has the ability to become Darkhawk. And so it's an interesting take on a superhero, right? like in his real life, he has to take medication. There's all these things that are happening to his body. Meanwhile, he can run around as Darkhawk and fight crime. I thought that was really cool, and it works really well on all kinds of levels. And I don't hear enough people talk about this series, so I don't know how well it did. But this was definitely one of my favorite reads this week. I can't. Kyle Higgins coming in, I was like, all right, cool. Darkhawk, hell yes. As soon as I found out it was a new kid, I was like, no, what? But I did end up enjoying this. Now, the book has 136 pages. Retails for $17.99. I'm sorry, this one has 168 pages. Let's look in the back here for some extras. For all you spine watchers, here's what all the spines look like this week. And again, keep in mind that Thor is the original printing, so the new printing might look a little bit different. Alright, let's get back to the video. X-Men, Volume 1. This is the Gerry Duggan era of X-Men. So you have all these creators right here. Gerry Duggan, Pepe Larraz, and a bunch of other creators behind this particular book. This one retails for $17.99, and we are looking at your new team of X-Men. So, sorry if you've not read the Hellfire Gala, this book spoils who the new X-Men are, but the thing with X-Men is that they're always changing their teams. So, you should be used to that by now if you've been reading X-Men for a while, collecting the first 6 issues of Gerry Duggan's era of X-Men. So here we have Cyclops, Jean Grey, Sunfire, Synch, Wolverine, Polaris, and Rogue. And that Wolverine is now Laura. So there was actually it did happen during the Hellfire Gala that Wolverine was like, no, you're Wolverine too. Why the hell not? How many Robins do we have? How many Superman? How many Wonder Woman and Wonder Girls? Let's do it. If it works for one company, I guess it can work for the other. So this is the new team of X-Men. And I love... It seems like this the first 3 issues have them jumping out of a plane, out of the Blackbird, in these huge dynamic poses. I'm sure this is the one that was pointed out to me in one of the Saturday live streams that brought up the whole thing about art inspiring art or people tracing. Yeah, I love Joelle Jones, and I am not an artist, so I don't know how much the struggles of an artist are to get and meet deadlines. So we have this particular issue kicks it off with this huge creature that's coming and attacking a city, taking over people, destroying their brains. The X-Men can't really fight it. Even Polaris, who's used to controlling steel and metal, she's like, I can't do anything. So what did they do? They build themselves a giant X-Men robot to fight this thing with Cyclops forming the head. That's ridiculously badass. I'm not gonna. Then it punches it, and when it loses his arm, oh man, this is awesome. It's powered by Sunfire here. Love that Synch is playing a role. I love to see these Gen Xers, and I mean Gen X as in Generation X, not my Generation X, or me, my age. I mean, people. Damn it, I'm talking about the team Gen X. Scott Lobdell, Chris Bachalo, them. And New Mutants graduate into the X-Men. I love when that happens. They're old enough. Let's give them some time in the X-Men. And yeah, Laura just jumps out. It's like, oh, we made a hole. Let me go in there and kill it. And that's pretty much the first issue. We are introduced to some new villains that will cause issues later on for this team. But the biggest one, I think, to me, is this character right here. It's towards the end, and I don't want to spoil anything because there are some really cool stories in here. Like they have to face Nightmare. There's this really creepy villain that the High Evolutionary shows up with his daughter. Oh, what is her name? Luminous, I think. She was in the Uncanny Avengers. So the only one she's met is Rogue. They have a huge fight with the new X-Men team. But we have this new villain that shows up. I assume he's a villain. And let me show you. Right here. It's issue number 6, Whatever Happened to Captain Krakoa. So we have this character right here. What does he have to do with the X-Men? There's a nice appearance here by Ben Urich, too. Interviewing Cyclops. But yeah, this character right here just kind of creeps me out because ever since the Maker, man, these characters with just giant helmets, I don't trust them. I do love Sunfire's badass new outfit, though. It's like a nice mix of his classic costume with his Age of Apocalypse costume. The book retails for, I think this one's $17.99. Yeah, $17.99. It has 184 pages. Let's look at the extras in the back. We have an awesome connecting cover here by Pepe Larraz. And that is the cover that you saw on the trade paperback. I didn't talk about the Nightmare Headless Horseman, but you can find out why. The Headless Horseman shows up, and here's Peach Momoko's variant. Really like this Stormbreaker's connecting variant there. That's awesome. The X-Men cartoon 90s variant. That's adorable. Nick Bradshaw. I did not recognize Nick Bradshaw's. I mean, I should have. I should have been able to tell by the mouth right there. For some reason, it just didn't look like Nick Bradshaw here, though, or here. And then there are some really cool variants, though. Back here in the back, that's cool. But I'm not talking about those. I am talking about these right here. I love these trading card variants. That's awesome. I wish I had known about them. I don't collect single issues, but I may have made an exception for those. Last but certainly not least is the Avengers, the Crossing Line. Now remember, this book comes out this week, the reprint, but I've already done an overview of it a couple of weeks ago, back in February. I'll put the link up above, or you can do a search for it, The Wrath of Odin. All right, let's get back to my childhood, though. The Crossing Line, not to be confused with The Crossing. The Avengers, the latest epic collection. This is volume 20, 1990 to 1991, when a young Omar was in the 8th grade. And all he did was want to talk to his friends about comics. Did you ever have that friend that you never knew what the hell he was talking about? They were really into something, like, I don't know, NASCAR, or sneakers, or skateboards, and you just like coming over to their house because his mom was a good cook? Yeah, I was that friend. Nobody knew what the hell I was talking about half the time. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys gotta read the Avengers, man. There's this new guy named Rage, and he's like us. He's a kid. Oh, he's great. Anyway, that was me. So, the Avengers. This is a pretty interesting collection because this collects Avengers 319 to 333, annual number 15, and then, of course, the material from that Terminus annual crossover. So you have Captain America annual number 9, Iron Man annual 11, Thor annual 15, and Avengers West Coast annual number 5. But it kickstarts with the Crossing Line, which is a story here by Fabian Nicieza, who will eventually go on to write New Warriors. So this is like the Avengers, to fight off this nuclear threat, they have to fight against Alpha Flight, they have to fight against Atlantis, and they have to fight, of course, against the Soviet Union. That's why you see a lot of these characters here. But the interesting thing about this particular collection, it was like right after Uncle Raj left the Avengers, they went through a time where, like, okay, we can't find a writer. You know, sometimes it would be Mark Grunwald stepping in, Fabian Nicieza does some issues, Larry Hama comes in, and it's a weird mashup time of Avengers, and we didn't really have a lineup of Avengers too. Like, this was our current lineup. We had Quasar, Vision, Cersei, and Stingray. I love Stingray, by the way. I was always a fan of his designs. We had fill-in artists a lot of the time, but it still worked because I never noticed these things until I got older. I didn't know who was writing the books. I thought, I don't know, the magical person behind the desk was writing these stories, and I was just entertained. So here's a cover by John Byrne. This is Avengers 325. Because all these have a little backup story by Mark Grunwald that sets up some returning characters from Captain America, and it all comes to play here in issue 325. And then, of course, we get the new lineup of the Avengers when Captain America's like, okay. Oh, but that's after, of course, the Terminus crossover here that happens through all these annuals. Yeah, it's a 5-part series. Oh my gosh. Okay, so one thing I do want to say, let's do something really quick. I do want to talk about how annuals are collected in specific epic collections. So, for example, you have the Mighty Thor annual number 15. So this is the Terminus Factor Part 3. So the previous part happened in Iron Man, and now we're going into Thor. So when a Thor or Iron Man or Captain America annual, and when they're collected in a Avengers epic collection, the entire thing is not collected. It's just material from mainly the main crossover. So if it's the Terminus Factor and it says 64 pages of content, that's not how many pages are collected in here. They are just the Terminus Factor pages until you get to the actual annual with the headline title. So this is the Avengers Epic Collection, you get the entire Avengers annual, not just the Terminus Factor part. And I mentioned that because people have asked me, how are they going to collect all of these crossover annuals? They do, because they just keep those pages from the actual crossover, the pages that matter. Now, the story, the heartbreaking story back here, I remember reading this. This is Kurt Busiek, early Kurt Busiek, about this kid that just loves superheroes. And, well, his brother's kind of a jerk. And let's just say it doesn't end well for his brother, and he just looks at superheroes a different way. Then Larry Hama comes in and introduces us to this guy right here that's full of what? Rage. Just like we all were back then. But you get this beautiful artwork by Paul Ryan. And Larry Hama, does a damn good job of taking over the Avengers. It's not like he is a stranger to these characters. I forgot to mention in the Terminus Factor here, some of the artwork is supplied by Herb Trimpe. That's Tom Morgan. But the Avengers part and the Avengers West Coast, some of that is some 90s Herb Trimpe. And we get more Rage. Now, Rage has a secret. I may have spoiled it earlier. Not that that's a big deal to some people. But after this is right before the Bob Harras era of Avengers. And then, of course, with Bob Harras comes Steve Epting. Dr. Doom shows up, and Paul Ryan goes over to the Fantastic Four after this particular issue, I want to say. And takes over that book. And Tom DeFalco is the writer on that particular title. The lineup is so weird during this time. Here's your extras all the way in the back. This is a big book. This one is 520 pages. So not a lot of extras. There's the Marvel Age cover and then some just, what is this? A Larry Hama profile and then a Paul Ryan profile. And then 1990, the year in review. It's an article back here, the year in review. But yeah, 520 pages. This one does retail for $44.99 though. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your confirmation email from CGN, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these trades. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up, which line you're following in epic format, or one day you're hoping that they will release in an omnibus edition. And if you're checking out these mighty Marvel Masterworks, what you think about them. If you're hoping one day this Reign of X era will come out in an omnibus format. Anyway, leave your comments and questions down below. This was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Check us out on Patreon. It's an amazing way to support the channel if you can do so. But more importantly, everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.